welcome to Creative Vitality Jam Sessions. Here we have intimate conversations with extraordinary dance and theater artists about reimagining creativity and supporting and building community. CVJS and I walk in solidarity and as allies for equality, justice, and respect because Black lives matter. President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris preach unity and healing. I say, let's join them. I'm Helen Pickett, and today's guest is Adam Sklute, the artistic director of Ballet West. Adam and I have known each other since 2009. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Helen. It's nice to be here.
Hi, it's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I always enjoy seeing your smiling face, and it's been a while since we've had a chance to talk and see each other.
Yeah, it's been since you came to Edinburgh to see the Crucible.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Wonderful ballet. Wonderful ballet.
Thank you. So, Adam, the first question for everyone is, what part of the world are you in?
Okay, I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I have been here since 2007, and it is a wonderful part of the world, the Rocky Mountains. It's absolutely stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. For someone who always grew up on a coastline, I wasn't sure if I was going to love living in a sort of inland place, but the mountains give you off the same negative ions, I think, that the ocean does. So I think it's quite wonderful here.
Yeah, I mean, we share that. I too grew up by the ocean, but I also grew up with these southwestern trips, and Utah is one of my favorite Western states. It is a glorious nature.
Yeah.
And Salt Lake is a very friendly city. I've always felt so welcome when I've been there. And as you know, you've brought me several times. So no, it's, is it already snowing?
So actually it's not, although I think the day after tomorrow, we had a little snow early on, and then it's been quite dry, unfortunately, for a while, which isn't good for our landscape and our industry even, which is the ski industry at this time of year. But Friday, I think it's supposed to start snowing and continue for a week. So we've got our fingers crossed because it's good for us here.
Yeah, it is good also for the nature, right?
Yeah, definitely. We could use it. We're in a bit of a drought here, so.
Yeah. So let's dive right in. I'm going to actually ask the first question is about a previous role you held, but I just think it would be very interesting for the audience to hear what that journey was like. So you had a dual role. You held a dual role as CEO and artistic director at Ballet West in 2016. How did you manage this duet between these vastly different and mighty roles? And are they so different? And what was the dialogue? No, was the dialogue in fact facilitated because you held both roles? I meant, the dialogue between the two.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting question, and it was a really interesting process how it came about. In 2016, I had been with Ballet West for about 9 years, and our then executive director, for family reasons, had to move on, and the chairman of my board came forward and said, "Do you think that you could take on both roles? You've been here a long time, you have a lot of experience, and you have a pretty solid team working with you, including, my financial oversight through our chief financial officer and a general manager, moving up my production director into general manager." So we sort of created this team, and, I wasn't really driven to do it at first. I actually was quite hesitant. I said, I'm not quite sure this is where my strength lies. I'm not quite sure I will enjoy doing this. But, they had said, with this team set up, how different is it really going to be? It will just be spending more time focusing as well on bringing in the finances, developing the budget and oversight of the financial aspects of the work. So, even though I wasn't really into it, I realized, I really needed to try it. I'm someone who always is driven to try something, always driven to want to do. And being given this opportunity, I thought it would be really foolish of me not to at least try. And I said, I will commit to 1 year only.
Oh,
I said, let us talk about it. And after that, if we feel like this is a functional situation, then I'll continue. And the board agreed, and so I sort of dived in. And in truth, to your question about how different it really was, it wasn't different. What it was like adding 75,000 things to your platter.
oh, okay.
As artistic directors, we do focus so much on the bottom line. We're always involved in the finances of how to produce the art that we're trying to bring to the stage, and all of those other aspects. But I realized that, and we're also very much involved in the fundraising aspect. I have many, many donors that I visit. I go and speak to many, many different foundations and such to inspire them about projects. But it really was just, in my opinion, one too many things for me. And I realized I was becoming a jack of all trades, master of none. I couldn't do everything to the degree of I wanted to by doing it. So very quickly, I think it was about 6 months later, I realized inside of me, this ain't working. This is just not going to work. And so I went to the board and I said, I really appreciated the opportunity doing this. I think that I've been able to, I had actually brought in the budget for the following year. I had already set all of that up. I had overseen that. But I was also hearing from my artists, we don't see you as much in the studio.
I was just going to say that.
My artists were beginning to complain too. They're like, you used to come in, you used to coach us, you used to work with us, you taught class often, you're not doing any of this anymore, because I couldn't. I just couldn't. I couldn't be in 12 places at the same time. And that was really the determining factor. It was really, I can't do everything. So I was very fortunate that I was given the opportunity to try. I think I did a decent job in the interim, while we were also then, after 6 months, we did start on a search. And it was about a year later. So it was actually a year and a half that I was in the position. It was a full year and a half, a year later, after we'd started going on a search, that we brought in our current executive director. But it really ultimately was not functional. It's interesting. I got a lot of good advice from someone else who'd stepped in a number of times into that position, was my friend Mikko Nisinen, who you know very well. And you've worked with Mikko, and he's wonderful. And he said something which is so true. He said, it's very challenging. It takes a lot of work, but sometimes it's really nice because you don't have to garner as much consensus. You don't constantly have to be asking so-and-so what, or getting agreement. But, for me, I'm someone who really loves the collaborative process. In fact, so much so I love agreeing on things. I even love butting heads if we're really all going for the same thing, and we have the same goal, because I want something to be really the best it can be. And I don't believe that I'm the only person who can create that. I like to work in a collaborative situation. So ultimately, I realized I'm much happier having a business partner as executive director than taking on the double role.
Yeah, I mean, I know you as a collaborator. I know you. The times that I was with you and creating work, your presence in the studio was so you know, you wanted to be there. You wanted to be a part of things. You wanted to see how things developed. And that's when I read this in your CV, I thought, that's what I'm really interested in, because you know, I could just assume through both of these roles, time would not be your friend. You would
Yeah.
have to, and it's usually the studio,
Yes.
right?
That's
Because
the first. Yeah.
you have people that you have choreographers, you have rehearsal directors, but I know you and you love to be a part of the art.
It's exactly it, and that's precisely right, and you're so right when you say time was really the enemy. You know, there
Yeah,
was just no way of being in two places at once, and yes, as you said, the studio was the place that suffered because I knew that we had good people in place there, but I had so much more oversight. So it can be done. Um, you know, Miko himself, someone who's done it several times, really also only did it in interim periods of time because he too did not prefer to constantly be in the same position that I understood.
right.
There are a few who do it and are successful, but it wasn't for me
Yeah.
ultimately.
I don't think it was about success, Adam. It was a success. It came down to your choice.
Well,
And
personal success. Yeah, exactly.
I think
Yeah.
that's the, you know, I think that's also a thing, how we measure, and success has so many different faces. And I could never, in all the years I've known you, not being a success is not one of them. I think it's how you measure how you want to be as an artist.
I'm someone who's very, very detail oriented also. And I felt, again, you know, to use the phrase master, jack of all trades, master of none, I, I couldn't delve into the depth of everything that I wanted to because I had to be in so many places doing so many things that just sort of dabbling in oversight wasn't my personal preference. I couldn't
Yeah.
do it. And, you know, as I said, we managed. I was in the position for a year and a half, and I feel like I was successful in it in terms of doing the best I could for the company and the company managing with it. But it wasn't where my heart and soul, and it ultimately wasn't in the long run for me.
Yeah. And that's the bottom line,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So
So, Adam, you were a part of Joffrey for 23 years, rising from dancer to associate director.
yeah,
Then in 2007, as we've established, you became the artistic director of Ballet West, where you expanded the company's outlook, repertoire, and visibility with exciting company premieres, increased touring, heightened public exposure. There is a very strong, what I from my point of view, there's a very strong family feeling at Ballet West. And I wonder how those 23 years of the family that you built in Joffrey prepared you for being an artistic director at Ballet West. And what I mean by prepared you in this specific sense. Like, what were the I guess what were the aspects that you found important in how you would establish a thriving, healthy company in that familiar community sense?
yeah.
Um, how has your perspective shifted in 13 years? And how have you reimagined yourself as a director? They're three big questions, so I could repeat them.
Yeah, you might need to because there's a lot to unpack there. And it's
Yeah.
exciting because it really is so much a part of my journey just as an artist. I guess I should start all the way back to, you know, I started ballet very late.
Mhm.
I didn't start taking classical ballet lessons until I was 17 years old,
Wow.
2 months shy of 17. I was 16 and 10 months or whatever. I had been doing sort of Afro-Latin jazz. I had been in theater, doing lots of musical theater and that sort of thing, but I didn't start classical ballet until I was quite old. I was taken by my family since I was a kid to go and see ballet. I grew up all over the world, but my home base I always considered mostly was Berkeley, California. And so we would go across the bay to the San Francisco Opera House, see San Francisco Ballet or visiting companies in Berkeley, California, go and see the Joffrey Ballet a great deal, which was in the early 70s and such. They were really performing. And so ballet had always been a part of my life, and my family was very big on ballet and opera and theater. And so when I started dancing, I remember very early on in my life saying, I want to be an artistic director more than a dancer. I loved dancing, and it was something that I was passionate about. But I remember going to see the Joffrey Ballet at the War Memorial Opera House in San Francisco, and getting it, yeah, you know it well, and getting a big program that they had, and in it they had all of they had the dancers' headshots, their repertoire, and sort of their trajectory through the company. Joined Ballet West 2 at this age, joined the company at this point, da, 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 da. And I remember analyzing every single dancer in that. I remember looking at the men, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror and saying, actually, you know what? I could fit from here. Now I have to make it fit from here. Literally, this was how I was looking at everything. I remember reading about the repertoire and then going and studying in libraries about the repertoire so that I understood it. I remember looking at the trajectory and creating my own trajectory, which was say, I will join Joffrey 2 at this date. I will then join the company at this date, and by this date I will have had this much repertoire, because they didn't list anything more in that. I will say I was off by 1 year.
That's not bad.
No, exactly. But I remember once I started, it wasn't so much that it was a family that I created at the Joffrey, although I hope in later years that was something but it was a family I was taken into. And the Joffrey was very much, at the time when I joined the Joffrey and was a dancer, and it very much a family atmosphere. It was really, it was an all-star, no-star company, so it did not have ranks. And there just was a real closeness in the way that Robert Joffrey had brought everybody together. And right around the time I had started was when Mr. Joffrey got sick. I was one of the last 2 dancers he chose personally for his company.
Wow.
Yeah. And he said to me, Adam, I'm going to take you into my company, perhaps against my better judgment. Oh, okay. He said, but you're smart, so I know you're going to succeed. Now you just have to learn how to dance. And that I learned. And I think of myself as an eternal student. So I started right away, not only constantly learning how to dance, because that was something that I felt I always had to do. And in fact, I personally feel everyone has to do as artists. We've always got to grow and learn in whatever aspect of our art. We never stop learning. The minute we stop learning is the time we should stop, in my opinion. And I also really just became fascinated in the workings and the mechanics of the company very early on. So when the company moved from New York to Chicago in 1995, the infrastructure had sort of fallen apart. And I offered my services to sort of take on a scheduling position. In Chicago, as I said, we were trying to rebuild, and that scheduling position little by little started growing into much more. I was assisting then the co-founder, who was, after Mr. Joffrey's death, the director, Gerald Arpino. I was working with his associate directors and starting to not only develop schedules, but starting to discuss repertoire. And then they would ask me to go in and could you take this rehearsal or that rehearsal? Because there just weren't people to do all this stuff. So I would take a rehearsal, and I was running rehearsals for my peers. It was very complicated. It was very awkward. But I went from that, and then I started teaching classes, and that became a real learning process to me. I still love teaching because it's a learning process, but it was constantly building this sense, working with the sense of the family atmosphere that the Joffrey had. That was something that was very, very vital to me. And right before I left, I felt like we had really built the Joffrey in Chicago to a place that was, again, that sort of vibrancy that it was that I had been a part of in the mid 1980s in New York, and it had taken all this time. Great things all the way up, great artists, great work, great stuff, but to really create that cohesive team that I had worked with. I worked with a whole team of people. My ballet master Mark Goldweber, former star with the Joffrey, ballet master Cameron Baisden, and Charthel Arthur. These people, we worked very closely under Gerald Arpino. In 2007, when I came to Ballet West, and that's its own very fascinating story, but to get to your point really about family, when I came to Ballet West, I found a beautiful company that I felt had a lot of emotional scars.
Okay.
Now, it's not for me to analyze how it got there, but people were very closed. They were very nervous. They were very not comfortable in their own skins, the artists in particular. The company had a grand and storied history. I was the fifth artistic director from its founder, Willem Christensen of the Christensen brothers, Bruce Marks, who was brought in by Christensen, then John Hart CBE, who was the associate director at the Royal Ballet, who then became the director at Ballet West, and then Jonas Kolge, the brilliant Swedish dancer, took on. But I realized that what needed to change was sort of an emotional rethinking of how we approached work. Exactly as you said, that sense of family. These people needed to feel comfortable in their skin, and how was I going to do that? Really, it was creating an atmosphere where they felt valued, where they felt important for being the artists that they were. Recognizing that they all had something important to bring to the organization, no matter what. This was a ranked company, which was very interesting to me, and had a long history of being a ranked company. And I was fascinated in taking on the position of running a ranked company when I had worked for so long in a non-ranked company. But what was important to me was to make everybody at every level feel important. It was very much a sort of star-oriented company when I arrived, and so people felt like they were either going to be the principals or nothing in the company. And I had to make people who were standing in the back line of the corps de ballet realize that they were as vital as, if not more so, than the principals of that ballet, and create that type of energy and environment. So that was a real aspect of what I felt I needed to build at Ballet West, and I still feel it's something that I'm always working on. It's creating the atmosphere, and I think that that's one of the biggest things that any artistic director can do, is create the environment. That's a big aspect of it, because if you create a fertile environment for creativity, then the creativity can blossom. Yeah, you have to create the garden. Yeah, then the flowers can bloom, and the flowers will bloom pretty much on their own or with other tending. But if the garden is well structured, well fed, fertilized, and has good sunlight and good hydration, all of these things, then the garden will thrive. And so that was sort of what I felt I needed to do, was create that garden for creativity to thrive here. And that really was indeed, as you say, the whole concept of building a family atmosphere that I think I very much inherited from the Joffrey Ballet.
Yeah, well, I mean, doesn't it speak to how your past, something I've been saying during the pandemic is to remind people that your present is your future. Well, your past contributes to your present. So it makes total sense, where it's like, good parenting, you pass on, you choose to pass on, and like you said, cultivate the positive sides. And you took the family aspect that you felt people thrived in, right? And I also danced in an all-star, no star. And there's something really beautiful about
Very much.
that kind of company. It also, I feel, puts a lot of drive in people because, like you said, you had to create that in a ranked system to let everyone know you all have a chance.
And in fact, that's constantly it too. It is this sense that everybody does have that chance, and it really is, taking from the past as well. But not just my past with the Joffrey, but studying and learning from the past of Ballet West too. Because I was the fifth artistic director, every director has their own way of working, but I very much wanted to honor the history of my predecessors as well. I saw the brilliance of what Jonas had brought before me. I saw what Mr. Hart had created so elegantly. I saw the company that Bruce Marks had really brought to the forefront based on the brilliant company that Mr. C had created to begin with. So I saw that and I wanted to honor all of it, as well as my own Joffrey heritage and roots.
Yeah, yeah. So then how do you think your perspective, so how has your perspective shifted in the, I'm sure, in these 13 years? And then how have you, and in conjunction, how have you reimagined yourself as a director? So I guess they're kind of intertwined as a question.
Yeah, it's a really complicated question. I actually was thinking a lot about it. You were very kind to give me this question, that aspect of it beforehand. And I just want to say it because the truth is I thought a lot about it. It's a hard one because I'd like to think I'm not there yet. So my perspective is still growing and still changing, and I hope that it continues to do that. For me, I think I'm someone who's better at striving than arriving. So I don't even like to consider that I've arrived in any place because there's so much more to do. There constantly is. Um, uh, when I was hired for Ballet West, I was given very specific tasks by the search committee.
Okay.
Those tasks are even listed in my, I was asked to strengthen the company and strengthen the repertoire.
Okay.
I was asked to expand the visibility of the organization. I was asked to put the company back on the national scene. I was asked to build the academy. So each one of these were tasks that I still go back to every time I think, have I done enough here? Is that really, and so we're always exploring new and interesting ways of developing the organization. I think I'm more comfortable in my own skin now as an artistic director. I think that I hope after 13 years, I feel like I own the position more. When I started, I really felt very much like I had to prove that I was a worthwhile individual. Like I didn't have, I mean, who was I? I was a dancer who had worked very hard, who then became a part of the artistic staff at the Joffrey, and worked my way all the way up to associate director. Now, in my mind, that was just work, and I was just doing what I could do, but I had to separate myself from it and realize, well, you know what? Actually, those are substantial credentials.
Yes.
And so even becoming artistic director at Ballet West was something that I felt like okay, this is great. I have a job. The job part is good, but owning the position was something that I had to learn. So now I feel a little bit more confident in the ownership, the personal ownership of it, and subsequently, I think I have found that I'm easier with the people that I work with.
Mhm.
Um, I always have believed in supporting other people's works. I like to think that I'm a very collaborative individual. I like to believe that I don't micromanage, but I think I did. I used to feel like if I didn't have oversight in every little detail, that I was not doing my job.
Mhm.
And now I've become a little easier with that. It doesn't mean that I've let down my standards at all, because that is my job, is to uphold the standards of the organization. But I'm more comfortable with myself, and subsequently I think that I can bring that comfort level to the people that I work with.
I mean, I think when I hear comfort, you're talking about trust too, as well, Adam, right? You're trusting yourself more. And
Yeah.
isn't it funny? It's always the same when that trust, when you start really, when it's not about I will practice trust, but when that trust really starts becoming,
Mhm.
it's amazing how the trust opens out and that generosity. And then it's not even that it's I will now practice trust with others. It's that it becomes in you and it becomes then in other. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful symbiosis, trust. It really is.
Yeah, when we trust ourselves, then we're able to bring that trust to others, and people feel trusted as well, because there's a sort of calmer energy, I think, that comes out, which allows, again, once again, it's part of that calming energy that can help the garden thrive. And
Exactly.
that's in fact something that I also had to learn a lot, because I'm very passionate about what I do and I want very much. But I think, being calmer with myself
Mm.
allows other people to be calmer around me. And that's something I'm also always learning
Yeah.
as well. Another aspect of where you talk about how I might have grown and developed. I'm someone who has very broad and eclectic tastes in terms of ballets, but I'm also someone who really respects history. So I really delved, as I said, into the history of Ballet West and looked at its history in the big classics.
Uh-huh.
This was something, I have to say, with the Joffrey Ballet, we did a number of full lengths, but rarely the standard classics. And so for me, a big goal early on was to start producing my own version of the classics, which we ended up doing. And to date, have overseen. I call myself, I call it conceived and produced, because I'm not a choreographer. I don't profess to be. I think I get it, but I don't think it's something that my great skill. But conceived and produced Swan Lake, Sleeping Beauty, and Giselle. And
Wow.
those were such joys to do, but dabbling at first, I think, in where the best focus was going to be. There were so many things, the history of Balanchine with Ballet West, and knowing that as much as I always adored that work, I didn't have a lot of experience in it. So learning about that and bringing people in to bring that. And then the other history, which the company had years ago, but had not had for 9 years when I arrived, was the creation of new work. There have been
Wow.
no new work created on Ballet West for 9 years when I arrived. And so that was another big aspect of what I wanted to implement, because it's so vital, not just for the future of the art form, but also for the artists themselves to have work created on them and to be part of that creative process. I mean, you know this is, you know, you were so much a part of the creative process in your own dancing and performing, even, because, you know, that really, I'd like to think, probably shaped you as and brought so much to as the artist that you are now.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you said something, but something flashed through my mind when you said, and on stage. I was like, yes, things even changed while we were dancing.
Right? Oh, yeah.
You heard a far off voice in the monitor and you're like, uh-oh, I'm getting direction.
And that's live theater, right? There you go.
Exactly. I tell you, talk about learning a lot, and so grateful for that experience. So, boy, it's going to be a terrible pun, but yes, I learned on my feet how to change immediately and
Yeah.
how to shift and morph and be with the community in a completely different way in the moment.
Yeah.
You weren't with that group of people on stage when a big shift was happening. I mean it, in the moment, sunk.
Yeah.
So really, like, so many lessons that I'm still, like you said, unpacking now from
Yeah.
those 11 years with Bill.
Yeah.
Really, amazing. So
Yeah,
back
but
to you.
you actually brought that to our dancers a lot too with your work. I mean, yeah, I mean, I saw that. And in fact, your first work on the company really was during a period of time when we were just learning as a group to be a part of the creative process again. And so you actually helped expand the horizons and educate our artists in how to be part of that process. You know, they were afraid of it, a lot of them, when I first arrived. You know, they didn't know how to, well, what would you do here over there? I want you to get over here from there. I want you to do this step, but then you have to figure out how to do that. And I don't know, and so, and you really brought that out in people and got them thinking and got them passionate about their own creativity. So that's something I really attribute to you, because it was a time when we really needed it, and that your first work with the company really started us down that path in that way.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was a pleasure, and it is always a pleasure with you. In 2017, you introduced Utah audiences to the new National Choreographic Festival, which invites other dance companies to join Ballet West and present choreography from around the world. It's an inspiring and community building idea. Once again, building community, Adam. It's amazing. Can you please, but widening the community too, right, into our dance world.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that further? How the idea was born, and perhaps some of the companies you've teamed up with up until now.
Mhm. Yeah. So the idea really, this was a very developmental project. And in fact, you were part of the seedling of that, which was our innovations program, which is where I wanted to really start bringing choreographers from around the world to create on Ballet West. In-house choreographers, Ballet West dancers to start creating, but I wanted them to start creating side by side established choreographers such as yourself, or newer choreographers, and all kinds of different individuals, because I felt like by creating this platform where you're putting all of it together, you're really seeing the developmental process. You're also seeing aspects of the art. You're giving the audience an opportunity to really see all levels and different styles of choreographers, and you're giving the artists an opportunity to experience that from the choreography, or being choreographed on by their peers, to being choreographed on by great choreographers, and understanding that whole process. So that was a
Right.
very sort of in-house aspect of where we went. I wanted to take that then a step further. I felt like the duty to the art form was more than just Ballet West, but bringing together companies, hopefully from around the world, that could really start sharing ideas, styles, the way we work. So that was basically the impetus. You know, Utah has a great history with film festival, the Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know, what I'd like to do is sort of create the equivalent of the Sundance Film Festival for dance and create Utah as a hub for that as well. So the next step was really taking everybody. And my first dream was, can I bring together companies who would all do world premieres here at the Ballet West stage? And then they could take it and use it as they needed, and we could see and experience each other's works, and, you know, hopefully give platform for choreographers to be seen by lots of different directors and show how different companies are dancing their works and show different styles altogether. That couldn't really work right away because it was just a too expensive and daunting an idea to create nothing but world premieres on the program. So then I said, well, let's say Ballet West does world premiere, but the other companies bring in something that they might have just produced that year or the year before. And so a lot of companies had just produced new works, and so they said, yeah, let's do this. So the first season, I had PNB, Pennsylvania Ballet, Oregon Ballet Theater, and Sarasota Ballet. And they all brought examples of new work that then we presented new creations to side by side. We did 2 different programs of triple bills. So 6 works by 5 companies, us and 4 visiting companies. And you know, then the following year, I brought in companies that were all directed by women, which was really a really fun thing. And so we had the Cincinnati Ballet, we had the Washington Ballet, we had the Richmond Ballet, and we had Charlotte Ballet. And they came. And so with that festival, what I've liked doing is bringing these companies together. And what I've seen is that some of the choreographers that have been produced on these companies have now gotten jobs with some of the other companies.
Right.
You know, and I've been able to see the work of their choreographers. And in fact, one of their choreographers, I produced a new work for too. So it's that sort of collaborative effort that I think is really vital. I think that's the wave of the future, is working together as teams. It breaks down walls. You know, we now, a lot of these companies have actually shared dancers when needed. I have built relationships with all of these who I mean, some of them I've been close with, but some I just made an invitation to, and I'm now friends with the director and know the company well, you know, and a couple of.
Chris Hampson.
So I was going to say, so then Chris Hampson was the birth of with the Scottish Ballet of our first international company. And I want because I had only been able to work nationally. And so now that actually came quite honestly because now Chris and I had become friendly through a group that I had been invited to partake in Ipswich, England. It was a sort of artistic director think tank, and I was very fortunate to be a part of it. Chris Hampson with the Scottish Ballet, Kevin O'Hare of Royal Ballet, Yannick Shergin of Singapore Dance Theatre, Madeleine Onne of now Finnish National. She was at the Hong Kong Ballet at that time. A big group of us, and that also really helped sort of expand my horizons, but it also, I became friendly with Chris. Chris was bringing the Scottish Ballet to the United States. I asked if they could take a stopover to Utah because of their government funding. They could really help this process, and it was great. So that was the birth of it. I will also point out that he brought a work by his resident choreographer, someone that you've worked with, Sophie. She was a dancer with them, and you choreographed on her, I know. And I loved her work, and so I actually commissioned her work. It's unfortunately been postponed, just like everything's been postponed. But so that was the birth of that too. We actually had our second and sort of broader international festival, which was going to be Singapore Dance Theatre and Royal New Zealand. Were going to be joining us this last May. Again, had to be postponed. I've been in contact with both Yannick and Patricia, the directors at each company. We're talking about the future. What exactly that means, whether it's next year or a little bit later, we'll see. Everything's so up in the air right now. But so it was really exciting, and it really is, just as I said, sort of the wave of the future, bringing companies together, learning from one another, creating a sort of place where people can create art and produce art. And hopefully, I was hoping to build a sense of tourism also during the summer months to Utah, which is such a beautiful place to come to, where people could come and actually experience a dance festival at the same time. So that was how the Choreographic Festival is built. It's still chugging along. It's still in its infancy stages. And as I said, just started becoming international, but we hope to build it even further now.
No, it's a very exciting project, and it also, look what it does for your community. It brings companies to your community that they might never see
Precisely.
for your festival. So yeah. So Adam, you're a teacher, a lecturer, a coach, a judge for ballet schools and companies worldwide. You have won several awards, including the Westminster College MLK Unsung Hero Award for ongoing work to promote inclusivity and diversity in ballet and in our community. In the work you have done for equity, equality, and inclusivity, what foci have come to the forefront? Where do you think you have brought and can bring the most benefit?
I want Ballet West's stage to reflect a picture of the world I want to live in.
That's what I say. I want our ballet companies to look like the face of America.
Yeah. And this year has been a very powerful year for so many reasons and for so many people. I learned a lot. My eyes were opened to all the ways that I was not doing enough. My eyes were opened to all the inequities that I was actually perpetuating unknowingly. If ballet as an art form is going to survive into the 21st century and beyond, it doesn't matter where it was born. It's got to be an art form for everyone. Ballet was born of the imperial courts of Northern Europe. Fine. We should always honor that history and those roots. but it's an art form for everyone. It's a 21st century art form. And subsequently, we have to create space for anyone to be a part of this art form. It's got to be about talent. It's got to be about ability. It cannot be about privilege, which is something that I, as a white man, have always had in my life. You know, I am a minority, certainly on some levels. I'm outwardly gay. That's who I am. But I'm still a white man, and I can walk down the street and not have that questioned, not have who I am questioned. And I realized as we went along that there has been so much in the ballet world that really has not been inclusive. So it didn't matter, well, actually that's absolutely wrong. It mattered tremendously that I worked hard to build the diversity of my company in terms of trying to have as many people from as many ethnicities and races and ways of life as possible in the company. That matters tremendously. But that's only one part of it. And that's the thing that I want us to keep on learning and growing, and I want to at least bring to Ballet West is, what does it mean to be inclusive? Well, it's all very well and good to have, and this is what I mean by this statement, it's all very well and good to have a broad spectrum of artists on the stage. But can those artists really be themselves, or was I trying to fit them into the old school mold of classical ballet? Well, I'd like to think that I was always trying to promote them being themselves, but the truth of the matter is I learned a lot about things. And here, this sounds like such simple, subtle little things, but one of the big sweeping policies that we just changed is it, and again, to those of us who've never had to deal with it, it doesn't sound like it matters, but it mattered so much. The idea that people of color should be able to be of that color and present themselves of that color. That's who they are. So we actually just spent, during this weird time when we've been sort of working in strange ways and not been able to produce everything that we wanted to, every single woman who has to wear in a classical lined ballet, quote unquote, pink tights, we no longer have pink tights. Everybody is now wearing flesh tone tights. Actually, in all fairness, everyone is wearing slightly lighter than flesh tone tights, because under the lights, we want the line to continue, the natural line. And that's one of the things that we explored. So in fact, a couple of our women are actually wearing lighter than pink tights because they're so white. And they even got it. They're like, oh, this is dark for me, whereas, but our darker skinned women are wearing darker tights and shoes, of course. Our lighter skinned women are not just wearing pink tights. It wasn't just this. In our school, they are allowed to wear. I'm not enforcing it except at the performance level where the company pays for their costuming. And that has a lot more to do with finances because it's expensive, so kids, I didn't want to enforce things at the school level, but on the other hand, I didn't want to say you have to wear your uniform. It may be a black leotard, but your tights are going to be what you can wear and we want to wear. At the company level, for rehearsals, obviously, it's pretty optional as long as it looks neat anywhere. For performance, we went through this whole reevaluation. Hair was another thing. This is a story, it's anecdotal, but it's so powerful and so profound. One of my younger dancers, second company, wonderful artist, came up through the school, and she was fortunate enough to be cast in all 3 ballets in George Balanchine's Jewels.
Wow.
Thrilling for her. She's in Ballet West too. I loved her. She was in the core of all three of them. It was great. I, as I always do, oversaw the hairstyles for each one of them in conjunction with the stager. And we all agreed that yes, it would be right for emeralds to have a low bun. And yes, it would be right for rubies to have a high bun. And yes, it would be right for diamonds to have a French twist. Fabulous, right? Great look. Wonderful. Never heard a word about it. Everybody accomplished that look. While we were going through this reevaluation process, it was something that I had brought a lot of our dancers on Zoom during this time earlier in the year. This young lady spoke up for the first time and she said, you know, I just have to talk about a hair situation. I was so blessed to be in all three ballets and jewels, and I really am grateful for that. I also am so grateful for it that I didn't want to jeopardize my opportunity to dance in all of them. But in a 15-minute intermission, I watched my Caucasian, Asian, and Latina colleagues take out a few pins, shake out their hair, take a bun and turn it into a French twist, put a few pins in, put their headpiece on, put their costume on, and get ready. And here I am, desperately trying to do what I can to change my hair because my hair doesn't change that way.
All right.
And so I thought, well, let's reevaluate that. Let's talk about what all of our artists can accomplish in a 15-minute change.
Right.
So look what I was doing without even thinking about it, just saying, you know, low bun, high bun, French twist. Beautiful, great. I created a hardship. I created inequity because that young woman couldn't do those changes in 15 minutes. She even said to me, she said, I'm surprised you didn't give me a note in diamonds because if you just saw the mess that was slapped at the back of my head. She said she had just slapped her hair together and put her headpiece on. And I was like, oh my gosh. But so I use it to illuminate that really it is time for all of us to really look at what it means to be equitable.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
young students are going and they're seeing nothing but Caucasian teachers. How do I build diversity at the student level if they don't see anyone who looks like them?
Yeah, they don't see an example.
Right. So those are things that I keep working and building and learning. And that's, I think, what my commitment is. I can't say I've done it all right. In fact, I've done a lot of things wrong. I do say I'm always open to learning. I think my artists are confident enough to bring things to my attention and to show examples of where we can build equity. But that's the wave of the future for me as an art form that no matter whether it was, as I said, born of the imperial courts of Northern Europe.
Yeah, but it's something interesting in that, and you did cover it, but I caught that at the beginning. But you covered it beautifully because it might have been born there, but and there was a certain demographic there. The technique is the technique, and it can be for everyone. So the technique was born there with a certain demographic, but that rule does not hold. And this is what you've been saying so eloquently. The rule does not hold as far as demographic and what we look like. Technique holds. And
Exactly.
that technique is for anybody and everybody. And as you said, the privilege also needs to break down so we get it into more schools. But that's exactly it.
Well, and the thing is I don't want ballet. This was actually, hopefully this doesn't come across as too controversial a statement, but I don't want ballet to stop being any less exclusive. I want that exclusivity, but that exclusivity has to be based on talent, technical, artistic ability. It isn't based on a physical look that, well,
Yes.
and here I'm going to be slightly controversial too. Yes, it is based on a physical look, but it isn't based on a physical look that is born primarily only of one ethnicity or one race. Anybody should be able to achieve that if they have the proper physicality and the proper training. And the physicality is, again, a broad spectrum. And I'm not trying to say, that I expect everyone to look. Ballet West, we're all shapes and sizes and heights and whatever. I mean, even though we have a reputation for being tall, we've got lots of people. But what I am saying is there are technical requirements, for the most part. Your feet have to be able to accommodate point work. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that every foot has to look the same? Does every foot have to be so? No, I don't think so. Your body has to be
trained. They can be trained.
They can be trained.
No, I didn't have great feet. I made my feet what they were.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. But the exclusivity is built out of the artistry, the technique, the ability. It isn't built out of something that you're born into. Well, I mean,
and also it's the sports. It's basically, we're sports people. We have to be in shape. So there's
and that's the thing. I mean, so I use some things because
I'm in shape, like there's got to be, you've got to be ready to take on this massive physical activity. It is, as we know, it is tremendously hard.
And that's why your instrument has to be in the best physical condition as possible, but everybody's instrument is different. That said, I also use the analogy that someone who's 5'2" is likely not going to be an NBA player.
No.
Someone who has a smaller hand span is not likely going to play Rachmaninoff on the
I was just going to say Rachmaninoff, exactly.
But that's what I'm talking about in terms of physicality. Your physicality has to be able to accommodate the technique so that you can bring it to the best level that can. But that isn't exclusive to Caucasians. That isn't exclusive to any one ethnicity or race. That is about your ability and your artistry, your talent. Those are the things that make you exclusive. So that's what I mean about the exclusivity, because I don't want one to think that this art form is so magical. This art form is so special. We are privileged because we get a chance to do it.
Exactly.
And because we are in this art form, but it isn't because of our privilege of being a certain race that we have this art form. This art form is for everyone who can achieve it.
Exactly. And Adam, I am just, the fact that the conversation that's happening now, and I must mention Teresa Ruth Howard in this, the conversations that are happening now. I mean, since just a big yes, that's all I'm saying. It's going to make our art form bloom. Well, I'm so excited, about this.
I did be your mentor, Bill Forsyth.
Yeah.
He actually helped start a group of us artistic directors.
Good for him.
And we now meet every Monday.
Great.
Artistic directors of New York City Ballet, Houston Ballet, Miami City Ballet, PNB, San Francisco, all of us together.
Because look at the company that he created and that we were a part of. We were way beyond, right? I mean, this was at a point, the company was third African American. It was good for him. I didn't know that. Right on, Bill.
Yeah.
Right on. Now I'm cognizant of time.
Yeah, I'm sorry I go on so long.
No, it's not me. You're a director of a company. No, I love it. Okay, great. I'm just going to go. In terms, if you have time, I'm good.
This morning I gave time because I wanted you to have time. You deserve time, and you're doing such wonderful work. So I wanted to be here for you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. So in terms of teaching and coaching through the years, And I know you love, I mean, this was said early on, but I know I have felt and seen and witnessed your love um, of dancers and of this art form while you're in the studio. It's very, very deep. Um, and you love to watch people bloom. And you've said this also, but I've witnessed it. So I want to say it. What leading aspects have surfaced in terms of how you see a dancer can develop to their fullest potential? And what do you look for in an artist?
Ultimately, what I look for in an artist is someone who is hungry and open and wants the art form, wants it so badly.
Yeah.
That is what is going to make someone succeed. You know, we can talk about physicality and all that stuff. And, sure, do I go, wow, when someone does a million pirouettes? Of course. Do I go, wow, when someone gets their leg up behind their ear? Sure. Do I go, wow, when someone does a double revel hoo-ha or whatever, you know what I'm saying? That stuff's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But that's not it. That's
Mm.
not it. That's like a marzipan flower on a cake, that's great, but it's about really the depth and ability of artistry. And you see it at different times in different people, you know. Sometimes I'll look through my school or kids that I've gone and seen at other schools when I've guest taught, or competitions that I've judged and watched them year in, year out. You watch them grow and you see a certain level of ability, and that's great. But very rarely do you see that kind of spark that really, that's going to go. That's going to take someone. It's happened to me a couple of times with people that I've seen and really developed and grown. And it's exciting to watch that development. But then, as I said, it happens at different times with different people. So I think one of my greatest joys with that is watching and helping guide someone on that journey that they're on artistically. And for me, again, yeah, I want to know that this person looks right in my company. That doesn't mean that that person has to look exactly like everybody in my company, because I have a pretty broad spectrum of how people look. But I can tell, I don't know, there's an intuition that goes into it in terms of whether someone is mentally and physically right, the way that they move, are they going to accommodate the technique? Can they stylistically change? Because that's such a big part of what I insist on. In any given season, we can go from a ballet of Sir Frederick Ashton's to a ballet of Balanchine's, to a ballet of Forsyth or Helen Pickett, no, but I'm saying, and really be able to adapt and take. That's what I want to see is, and it all comes from up here. It's in the mind, a beautiful physical facility, fabulous. That to me is just like, all of the other trappings. It's wonderful. I don't dislike that. I would be lying if I said, I don't even look at that. Of course I look at that, but that's not what I hire people for.
Yeah.
Hire them because I can see that they're going to go somewhere. And I'm not always right. I mean, but I always want to commit myself to the artists and help them grow, And
Yeah,
so that,
and what did Mr. Joffrey say to you? I'm hiring you because you're smart. Yes, you have room to grow, as we all do. But it's, and it's very, very important. It's so good to hear you. And I'm hearing so many more people now say, because it's, that terrible, don't think, just dance crap that's followed us for so long, and also, you know, all these other old fashioned but still perpetuated ideas. Not, but what I'm saying, what I want to say is there's so much more, there's so many more people saying, oh man, the smart ones. Because I mean, anybody who's been a dancer knows how many intelligences we must use. It's not for naught that I say dancers are some of the smartest people in the world. You know, I mean,
They
it's,
are.
yeah.
They are. You know, I think dancers often get a bad rap in terms of their intelligence because their intelligence doesn't always come out through verbal articulation. So many dancers who are not necessarily as verbally articulate, people will sometimes say, I mean, and you know, there are those of us like yourself, I think like myself, who can speak. But a lot of dancers are not always as comfortable just because that's not what they spend their lives training and doing.
Exactly.
But their brilliance and their intelligence comes out in different ways, far beyond what so many people can accomplish. But yes, dancers are some of the smartest people in the world.
Yeah.
They have to be. They have to be able to manage all of the things. And there are just so many things, you know, all of the complications and the pressures and the challenges of putting yourself out there physically and creating art, you know, and how you want to at once lose yourself in the art that you've been given to produce and at the same time not lose your identity in that. It's that takes a brilliance.
It does. It does. All right. So let's see. What does 2021 look like for you and Ballet West? Are you in full pod mode at the start of 2021?
Yeah. So we've run the company very differently than a lot of other companies. A lot of companies, and they were probably wise to do this, just closed their doors and said, see you in 2022, you know, or the beginning of the 21, like see you in the fall of
Yeah,
20.
yeah.
We've really taken it, as I call it, chronologically. We've gone one step at a time. Okay, we couldn't do this. Okay, we can do this. Okay, we couldn't do this. You know, we were one of the only companies, certainly one of the very only major American companies to produce a show in the fall of 20. We did a repertoire program, two
Wow.
works made specifically for this period of time, and
Wow.
then one work that we were able to do, fortunately, because we have so many life partners in our company.
Yeah.
That,
Yes,
that
exactly.
you know, we have seven opposite sex couples and 3 same-sex couples. So there were a lot of opportunities for partnering only between them, you know, to create a real show, which was wonderful. And then social distancing the others, you know, all together so that everybody got. We hoped to go on stage with a similarly kind of distanced and oddly put together, unique Nutcracker experience that unfortunately had to become closed, mostly just because the facilities were closed down, the county facilities, you know. Although we feel like we have shown, because our school has been in functioning since. We were the only company in America to do an in-person summer intensive, 265 students and 75 faculty and staff, and not one illness. Of course, we were, you know, nuts, psychotic about every little detail about health and safety and all of that, as well we had to be. But we proved, you know, and that's the same with all of our work. So in 2021, we are likely not going to be performing in February.
Okay.
But we are hopeful that we can start things back up in April. So hopeful that we can actually start rehearsing in some kind of distanced, masked way that we did in the fall, in March, hopefully, and then produce something in April, hopefully produce something in May, and hopefully produce something in June.
Wow.
But if we have to cancel that, we have to cancel that. Our audiences have voiced, our public has voiced that they like us working this way. We've certainly committed to a specific number of weeks of work for our artists, no matter what, but we hope to offer more, to be able to give them as much work as possible and to keep them dancing.
Yeah.
After the first break, man, when they came back in mid to late August, I think it was, after having been off since February, I, and we
Joy.
took weeks and weeks. I mean, we were like, don't jump at first. Now, no, only 2 feet to 2 feet jumps, things like that, that kind of stuff, because it just took so long. So we really don't want our artists to take that much time off physically. We are offering classes in small groups as much as possible. But, the whole organization we've all had to, take furloughed time. This is not unique. This is where it is. So our hope for the rest of 21 in the spring is that we are going to be able to produce something. I hope we're going to be able to produce some large scale things. We were slated to recreate Michael Smuin's Romeo and Juliet.
Oh.
And I'm hoping we still might be able to do that in June. But if not, we will push that back. And we have artists. I've committed to offering every single one of our artists a contract for the following year, everyone who wants to come back. I just felt like, how can...
Yeah. No,
yeah. No one's been able to work. Let's try and do a do-over, and let's just get started. So that's basically where we are. I think we've been very intrepid. I'm proud of the organization. I'm proud of the artists. I'm proud of the staff and the crew. I mean, the staff has worked amazingly. I just have to give a shout out to them. They're sort of, in many ways, often our unsung heroes, and they've just been, all of them, admin staff and everybody. So, and taking all of these furloughs just as the artists have had to take time off. It's heartbreaking. But I won't lose my hopeful. I think I'm an optimist at heart. So, it's just, this is what we have to do. And we just take it one day at a time. There's a lot of exciting news on the horizon, and what that means and how soon that means that we can get back to any sense of normalcy will just depend.
Yeah, exactly. But there is hope on the horizon. Also, I don't mind saying it. I produce my own show. Politically, I'm thrilled. And we'll leave it at that. Thank you. I can say. Okay, now we have the last 3 questions that I ask everybody. Can you share a favorite or impactful memory? Just one, something that comes to you from your creative life. I know there are many. This is a loaded.
It's such a hard question. This is the one I was stressing about the most, because from my creative life.
It can be when you're a kid. I mean, you have so many. We have so many. It's just,
Yeah, this is one that just sounds so funny, but maybe it's indicative to the broader picture of everything that I'd like to dream about myself. Towards the end of my performing career, I got to perform the role of Drosselmeyer in Robert Joffrey's production of The Nutcracker. And it had been created on Alexander Grant of the Royal Ballet, and it had a great history, and in many ways it was sort of envisioned as Robert Joffrey himself sort of building and creating this whole world. And when I took it on, I seemed to be given opportunities to sort of create it in my own way. They had been very controlling about how it was being done after Alexander stopped, and they just let me go with it. And I remember the moment when I first did the transformation, which is really just Drosselmeyer and the sets moving around everywhere, to some of the grandest music Tchaikovsky ever wrote, that transformation music, you know, the growing of the tree and all of that.
I know.
I mean, mind-blowing. And I remember the moment as the whole set had been changing and I had been orchestrating it. I mean, certainly not, you know, the whole crew is back there pulling ropes and doing that. And I'm like, but I'm up there going in, bam, and the tree starts growing in, bam, and this wall falls away, wham. And the height of that music, I had never cried on stage before. And I heard, you know, there was this yada da 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 dum, and just chills ran through my entire body, and I started crying. And I use that as an analogy of everything that I dream, that I hope for, in terms of the ability to shape something in our art form. And so that's a favorite moment.
That's so beautiful. That encapsulates all the magic, all the hope, right? So beautiful. So
So
beautiful.
hope, yeah, and magic.
Yeah, and dreams.
And dreams.
And dreams.
Because that's what it's all about, right? I mean, that's what our art form is. It's about dreams and magic and what we dream of ourselves and where we can go and what we bring to an audience because we're performing for them, and take them away from the world and create a realm of magic and dreams.
Exactly. And include them
Yeah.
on a journey that they normally wouldn't have in their lives. It's beautiful, Adam. Gave me chills. Um, do you have an insight or daily inspiration that you can share about living a creative life? Again, I know there are many, but something that, you know,
I said it early on, and I think that always learn, always be a student,
yeah.
never stop learning,
Mm,
never believe you know everything about anything.
mm,
Yeah, there is always something to learn, no matter how much we know, no matter how skilled we are. There's always something to learn from somebody else, from history, from a new insight, anything. Always learn
mm,
and always stay hungry for learning
mm. That's right.
and listen. That's sort of the side part of it. Listen. That's
You
how
know,
you learn.
I have in the pandemic, this is so very fortunate to have my health, right? So
Those do. Yeah.
speaking from that place,
Yeah,
which I know
definitely.
I'm very fortunate of, but one of the big, um, I've been learning about listening far more, and it's a relief. It's a relief. It's a relief. I don't know how else to say it.
I am a great talker. I won't deny it. Well, I say it sort of hopefully self-deprecating. I can talk forever.
Me too.
But
Yeah,
listening is such a gift.
yeah.
And it is such a relief. That's such a wonderful way of putting it, Helen, because um, when I feel like I've really listened to something, even if it's negative, I feel like I can breathe and absorb. Because so often we're listening or not listening, we're waiting our turn to speak
Yes.
versus really listening to what the other person is saying.
Yes.
And that's what's huge.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself.
Yeah. So we've covered this last question quite, we've covered it. You did an amazing um, you covered this topic quite beautifully in a question before, but I'm still going to ask it because there might be something you want to add. In supporting and building a more equitable dance community, what are some specific daily practices that we can be active with?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly talked extensively about the new practices that were looked at. I think it's important to celebrate everyone's uniqueness.
Mm,
And I think in our art form, where so much of it is based on the history of our art form, it's important to look in the same way. It's almost like listening, is see what is unique about each one of us and celebrate that. Um, I, what I'm trying to say, specifically insofar as it connects to the idea of diversity and equity, is that, you know, child of the 60s and 70s from Bay Area, there was a TV commercial where it showed a little child's hand coloring stick figures all with a purple crayon. And the voiceover was a little child that said, I don't have Black friends, and I don't have Asian friends, and I don't have Hispanic friends. I just have friends.
mm,
What a lovely thing to say, except you know what? No, I have Black friends. I have Asian friends. I have Latinx friends. We celebrate that we have that difference.
mm.
And I think those are easy words, but when we really look at it, and I'm coming to realize it more and more as a director of a company that I keep on building and broadening the base of diversity, is understanding those differences in order to celebrate. So I think our daily practices, we are different. And that's a great thing.
And that's a great thing.
And I think recognizing that it's a great thing to be different from the other person and bring that diversity, whether it's ethnicity or race or whoever the person is celebrate that person and celebrate the difference and understand the difference. Don't only put it through our own rubric.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's daily practice, man.
A daily practice, daily. Maybe the word is, I mean, it's been thrown around so much these days, but maybe the word is empathy. You know, maybe that's part of it. Understanding what the other person's life is like, which also connects to listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Being, right?
Being, yeah,
Being,
yeah, being,
being with,
right.
sharing with, opening with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, I hope that makes some sense.
Yes, it does. Adam, oh my God, what a wonderful conversation with you. I mean, just, again, I gotta say, it is an aspect of it, but it is just like to talk with my dear friends. Yeah, we don't see each other. We see each other sporadically anyhow, but this isolation has brought the relationship so much to the forefront, as far as saying, oh my God, these relationships must be fostered. We must be in contact. We must continue.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for this generous, open, honest, empathetic, all the things you are, excited about your love of our art. Thank you so much for this conversation. Just I'm just humbled and thrilled to be here sitting with you right now on
Oh,
this, on
feeling.
my father's birthday. It's my father's
Oh, happy
birthday.
birthday to
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
He's
Oh, that's wonderful.
a remarkable human being, and I'm so happy to share it with you as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I'm honored to be on the show then for this episode and this
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Helen, thank you. You're doing great work. And I've followed these and it's just an honor to be a part of them. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you. So Adam, is the best place for people to find out about Ballet West is balletwest.org, no?
Balletwest.org. Yep.
And you must have Instagram tags and handles. So what are those?
Oh my gosh, I am a loser. I'm an absolute loser because I don't know, but
I
I
can
think
tell you
it's
it's Ballet West.
yeah, I think it's Ballet West and at Ballet West 1. Um, yeah. But yeah, we were fortunate to film a wonderful high definition beautiful broadcast of Willem Christensen's The Nutcracker last year. We're showing it on KSL television for free to our public as part of a fundraiser. You can go to KSL's website and find it on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and there's more information about it out at balletwest.org, and just all the other things that we're doing. Our school has a new website. We have a new director of our academy, Evelyn
Well,
Cisneros. You know her?
Evelyn,
Yeah,
I no, I watched her when I was a kid
yeah,
in San
yeah,
Francisco Ballet, and we've been friends for years, and I was thrilled when I read that.
yeah.
She is
Exciting.
such a wonderful human being.
She has brought such joy and magic to the school, and she's just getting started. So, and during this
Yeah,
strange time, but it's just such an honor to have her with us. So, yeah.
yeah. So I was thrilled. So let's see. So for everyone, you will find a short bio of Adam in our description box below this video once we get it on our YouTube channel. And we have new guests every week. Our next guests, and this will be our final two guests before our break, are two dancers from Kansas City Ballet, Danielle Bausinger and Liang. And now is the time for my thank you to everyone. I thank our beautiful dance world, which has upheld me, supported me, and shown me the world. So thank you to our dance world. Thank you to Gracie Spina, the amazing young intern who makes this all happen. And Adam, thank you again so much. Let's keep reimagining our beautiful dance world, which you are doing.
Always. Thank you, Helen. Thank you.
Bye.
You bye bye. Thank you.